GPT-3 is this amazing artificial intelligence engine that can write something about pretty much anything you ask it. It's like a very sophisticated autocomplete system. So if you're typing a message on your mobile phone, you'll be familiar with, you type a couple of letters and the phone suggests the word that you're trying to type and autocompletes it for you. If you use Gmail for your Gmail, Gmail has this function where it'll autocomplete whole sentences based on what you started to write. It's pretty clever. GPT-3 will write many paragraphs of convincing sounding text based on what prompts you enter. So I got access to it the other day, and I've got a sort of beta account, so I've just been playing around with it, and it's amazing. It's totally amazing. So this is one of the prompts that I gave it, right? Alice has a dispute with Bob. If Alice wins at trial, she wins £500,000. If she loses, she will have to pay £100,000 in legal fees. Alice's lawyer says she has a 65% chance of winning. Should Alice continue to trial, or should she try and settle? So that's the prompt, right? And this is the kind of thing it comes up with. So the first time I ran it, it just said Alice should continue to trial. Okay, fair enough. It's not that sophisticated, but I ran it a few times. And let me just show you some of the other things that it comes up with. Again, it's a much longer paragraph now. It's still not that impressive. It's just a rather generic description of the pros and cons of settling or going to trial. But remember, every sentence here is a novel sentence. It hasn't just copy pasted something it's found on the internet which seems related. It's actually creating a new set of sentences each time. And so I ran this a few times. And at one point, I got this extraordinary answer. It does this little expected value calculation. Alice's expected value from going to trial is positive. So if it's positive, she should continue to trial. If her expected value is negative, she should settle. Expected value, and it does the calculation, right? It's 65% of 500,000 minus 35% of 100,000 is 325, minus 35 is 290. And then it says, since Alice's expected value is positive, she should continue to trial. Now, it sounds really convincing, and it's very impressive that it's come up with that calculation, although the last sentence isn't quite right, because the decision should be if Alice's expected value of going to trial is greater than the value she's been offered to settle, then she should continue to trial. But it still looks pretty convincing. I've tried a few more, and in some cases, again, it looks convincing, but it's just wrong. So look at this one. It says losing at trial would mean having to pay 100 grand in legal fees, which is more than the 500,000 she would win if she won the trial. But obviously that's not right. 100,000 is not more than 500,000. And that sort of reveals how, although this system, GPT-3, sort of sometimes feels like a conscious being that understands your question and understands its own answer, it doesn't, right? It doesn't understand anything, and will sometimes say things which is complete nonsense, like saying that 100,000 is more than 500,000, which it clearly isn't. And this is interesting. Look at this one. Here it says, if Alice settles, she'll receive £325,000 and avoid the 100,000 legal fees. Why does it say if she settles, she'll receive £325,000? That does not appear anywhere in the text. There's a sort of, somehow there's a kind of background calculation that's happened, or the appearance of a background calculation. It's not really doing any calculating. It's just estimating what the probability is of a certain word, appearing next. So it's done it appears to have done an expected value calculation to figure out that the expected value of winning is £325,000. That's actually not the expected value, right? Because that's 65% of 500,000. Actually, you need to take off 35% of 100,000 to get the overall expected value. And that's the value at which you would settle. Like, the implication is you should settle at 325,000. Actually, you probably want to settle at 290 to take into account the risk of losing the 100. Check out my Maths for Smart Lawyers course if you're not following this arithmetic. And yeah, so that's interesting. That's fascinating. I've done a few more. I'll just whiz through some of these. one thing I did try and do is just try to focus it in on expected value. That looked quite interesting. So I've put in this little extra thing based on expected value should Alice continue to trial. And so I just ran through a few of those to see how that would work. And again, it comes up with the £325,000 figure there. And again, it's got that expected value. So it's pretty interesting, right? But then it does some things which are wrong, like the expected value of settling, which is 200,000. Where's that come from? Where's that come from? I mean, although that is the right approach, this is the only one where the approach is right. But the expected value of going to trial is X. Is that greater than the value of settling? If yes, then go to trial. So that's kind of right, although the numbers appear to be wrong because there's no particular reason to believe that the settlement value is 200,000. That's just fiction. So there you go. And I just have a bit, you can do anything with this, right? Just to also demonstrate the other kind of things you could do. So I've asked GPT-3 if I should burgle my neighbor's house. My neighbor's very wealthy. They have dogs and armed guards watching their house. Should I burgle the house? And GPT-3 unequivocally says, no, you should not burgle your neighbor's house. And I tried this a few times, I ran this a few times, and it keeps saying no, 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 no. So then I changed the prompt a little bit to take out the armed guard, see if that makes a difference. But no, it still says I shouldn't burgle the house. But if I add in the possibility that I should burgle the house by saying if, here we go, so I added if so, how should I prepare for the burglary? Then I get a much more interesting answer. Look at this. Not advisable to burgle your neighbor's house regardless of their wealth. This could lead to legal trouble and damage your relationship with your neighbor. But if you're determined to burgle their house, you should take some time to plan your break-in. Choose a time when you know they'll be away from the home. Case the house to find the best entry point. Prepare any tools you'll need in advance and make sure to wear dark clothing to blend in with the night. Isn't that all amazing? And it just, again, every sentence here is a novel sentence. It's just fascinating. And I did this one more time. I actually changed the prompt a little bit just to, I want to focus on those tips. So I've asked it to quite explicitly give me some tips for burgling houses. And this is what it comes up with. Isn't that amazing? It's just like, it doesn't, this thing, it doesn't know anything. It doesn't know what a house is in the sense that you or I do. It doesn't know what burglary is in the sense that you or I do. And yet it can write these five tips. I think it's just totally mind-blowing. And as we've seen, sometimes it talks nonsense, but this stuff is getting better all the time, and it just doesn't feel like it's going to be that long before you can give it a bunch of legal documents and say, please summarize these documents, or please tell me, who should win this case.